heroes acting out there on a silver screen. Come grab a seat, popcorn is on me.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take one.
Hello, welcome to Meet Me at the Movies. Noel T. Manning II here with Thomas Manning, and technology running amok right here for us at the C19 satellite studios in Boiling Springs, North Carolina. Thomas, I don't know what's going on. I mean, we're having all sorts of troubles. I don't know if there's some kind of crazy war that's broken out, if there is a some kind of eclipse I don't know something about, or if we got some crazy chaos like the Monkey Man. I don't know, man. Or Godzilla Kong breathing on us. It's just nuts. It is nuts. 128% nuts, Thomas.
128. I'm really impressed that you just brought that number out of nowhere like that, but that is the exact percentage I was thinking about when thinking about how nuts this is. And yeah. Absolutely, yeah. And I think, we're using a satellite here at the C19 Satellite Studios. I think there was some sort of electromagnetic pulse that is causing some issues and wreaking some havoc. But hey, we're here to talk about some great movies today.
Yes.
And no matter what we have to do, if we have to, fight and claw like the Monkey Man to do this, we'll make it happen. We will get this show done.
Yes, we will, because you, the audience, deserve it. You deserve nothing less. You deserve a lot more, but you deserve nothing less. Well, Thomas, we do have a lot to talk about, and you and I have seen a few films together recently. You got a chance to see some without me and me without you, but there's a couple that really are kind of high on our radar, and one of those is something I've been looking forward to ever since I saw the first trailer. Wasn't really sure what I was going to be in for. But man, you and I went to an early screening of a film called Civil War. And it's not a film that looks back at the Civil War between the states in the 1860s. This is, if it were happening today, what would a civil war look like? But it does it through the lens of a journalist and photojournalist, and seeing their point of view. And we saw this movie, Thomas, and after it was over, and there was cheering. And it's been a while since I've heard some cheering and clapping from a crowd. And you and I just kind of sat there with our eyes kind of wide open. And, here we are days removed from it, and we're still thinking about it. And there are things that are still kind of gnawing at us. And I've talked to some others that are feeling the same way.
Yeah, and you mentioned that this film is basically told through the lens of these photojournalists. And we use this metaphor through the lens when describing the narrative perspective of a film or a book or really any type of story. But the director here, Alex Garland, he goes back to the roots of that metaphor and makes it very literal, with pretty much every ounce of his being is literalizing, visualizing that metaphor, and telling this story through the eyes of these war photographers. That was a very gutsy, creative choice. And I think he maximizes the filmmaking potential that's to be found there. And basically, all we know is that there are masses of people across the entire country are suffering, and we don't really know a ton about the history of the Civil War. We don't really dig into the political minutia of it all. We know that there's this third-term president who does bomb his own citizens, and that's been something that has ignited a civil war with these Western forces that are coming in. And these Western forces, they are fighting for their liberation, but there are innocent people on all sides of the equation who are dying. There are terrible war crimes committed by both sides of this war. And through it all, this group of journalists at the center of the story, they're willing to die to communicate these messages and this truth to the world at all costs whatsoever, no matter what it takes.
One of the things that I really appreciated about this, Thomas, is that this film told so many different stories within some very simple scenes like, I mean, for instance, they would talk about what's happening with the economy within, within this country as it is right now by just, one particular scene. And there's a scene that happens at a gas station, and you realize at this particular juncture that the dollar, or what we would call as the American dollar, does not quite have the same value that it used to, even so much so that in other countries' dollars are worth a whole lot more. So there are things like that that are told through just a sentence or just a piece of interaction. And Thomas, other things that we get a chance to see within particular segments of this film is that while there's this raging war going on across what used to be the United States, there are pockets of the country that seem almost untouched. And what I mean by that is you could stroll into Boiling Springs and you would have no idea that there's a war going on 60 miles away in a place like Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah, and that's exactly how it would happen realistically if there was some terrible war, some terrible conflict like this happening today, because our world and our country looks so much different than it did 160 years ago in the Civil War, and just the mass industrialization and the metropolitan areas were definitely not what they are today. But yeah, that's how it would look like. How it would be here in a rural area would look so entirely different than it would be somewhere like Charlotte, Asheville, Greenville, South Carolina. And so I think it really did speak to this particular moment and the world we're living in that way, for sure.
I loved every aspect of this film, Thomas. The acting was incredibly solid. And I'll let you mention some of the cast in this, but across the board, acting was solid. The sound design was incredible. You and I got a chance to watch this on an IMAX screen, and man, talk about an immersive experience. This was an immersive experience. Part of that, of course, was the IMAX and the sound, but it was also the filmmaking elements of it. The choice of throughout this film, there was some soundtrack, but it wasn't a traditional score. There were needle drops, but they weren't songs that everybody would be familiar with. It wasn't like you're watching Guardians of the Galaxy and you're going to oh yeah, ELO, love that. It's not like that. Oh, hey, Beastie Boys. It's not that kind of thing. But the use of those songs I thought was really incredible within this film, and then the use of silence. There were times that it was just pure silence, and all of that combined with the writing, the directing, it was just amazing to me on every single level. And I could continue to point out, we could talk hours and hours, because there were certain scenes that just really spoke to me and continue to echo and resonate with me all this time later. It's a film I'm going to go back to probably several times in a theater.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the sound design and the needle drops, because those are 2 points I definitely want to speak on. Really, the sound design, I would just describe it as absolutely deafening. There's this brutal cut from a moment of silence straight to the middle of an intense shootout in a war zone, and that's really the first major action set piece we see in this film. And it's almost like there was this collective jump in our audience. Just it jolted you in a way, and that's what these people were experiencing. These people had been, safe and sound the night before, and then instantly they head right into the war zone. And then those needle drops play into these moments as well, because the tone of these songs, they're from a wide range of genres, but the tone does not match up with the imagery and the moments in the narrative that we are experiencing. It's very dissonant. Once again, just illustrating that disconnect between basically these levels of society, and how it can change if you just go down the road just a few miles, and how it can be a totally different world. For within one country, the world can look very different depending on where you are and where you are in that moment.
When we talked about earlier on, seeing this through the lens of the photojournalist, you actually do get a chance to see it through the actual lens as well, not just from a narrative device. But there are times that a photojournalist may be turning the camera on a particular subject, and then will cut to what they are seeing within their camera. And one of the things that was fascinating is one of the characters, a young green photojournalist that is trying to figure out how to be a war photographer and following someone who's seasoned. They're using a 35 millimeter camera it was their dad's. And there's one scene where they're developing the film with this portable developing kit. And you see them going through the negatives, and you see them, see this person saying, this shot's out of focus, this shot's overexposed. And then that mentor says, ultimately it's okay. You're looking for that one perfect shot. And then there's this, you see this look on the face of that 24-year-old journalist realizing, I've got that perfect shot. And it was one that changed everything. The character arc of that character changed, I think, with that particular shot and seeing what they had captured on film.
Yeah, I'm so glad you talked about that scene, because that was one that it was really a heartwarming scene in a way, which moments like that were few and far between in a film this tragic. But if thinking about myself, if I had the chance to sit down with one of my heroes in film journalism, and they said something to me along the lines of, wow, I love that interview you did with that person, or I love that movie review you did, that would be a moment that would affect me in a similar way. So seeing that represented between the two actors in that moment were Kaylee Spaney, who plays the younger journalist, and then Kirsten Dunst, who is this world-renowned journalist who is Kaylee's hero in the film. That was such a phenomenal, quiet scene that, like you said, did speak so tremendously to both of these characters.
There is a lot of emotion that goes on through the course of this film for audiences who are immersing themselves into this story and into this film. But one of the things relating to the job of these journalists, and it's even mentioned early on by Kirsten Dunst's character, is, take emotions out of it. This is not a job where you can feel what's going on. You have to do the job, move forward, push any emotions you might have behind you, be emotionless, almost like be Spock, be logical. You got a job to do, and do it. And but we as an audience are feeling emotions throughout this entire film.
And a couple more members of the cast I want to point out. Wagner Moura is another one of the photojournalists who is, compatriot of Kirsten Dunst. And he's not someone I've actually seen in other films or TV, but this was my first time seeing him in a full film role like this. And he was just absolutely incredible. He just had this confidence and this charisma that was really magnetic. And then, of course, Stephen McKinley Henderson. This role gives him extended screen time, which he's usually a supporting character actor who only gets a few scenes. But in this, he's practically one of the leads of the film. He's this senior journalist. He's a guy who's seen it all through the years. He's basically the mentor of the mentors in this film. He's like this grandmaster of journalism. And so seeing him get a role like that was something that I truly appreciated about this film.
Yeah, and the film itself, it's a road trip, and it's not a road trip comedy by any means, but it is a road trip because these journalists, you're following them as they're trying to get beyond the front lines. The front lines are outside of D.C. They're trying to go all the way to the White House. That's their goal. So you're seeing them trying to map out how to get there and get there safely. And there are no safe travels when you're going through what they're going through. Well, Thomas, we're more than halfway through the show, and we could keep on talking about this, but the only other character that those are the four main characters. You mentioned those. You mentioned the acting talent. Nick Offerman plays that third-term president. We only see him in a couple of scenes, but his importance is significant throughout the film. And I just want to say A24 is just, has hit a solid home run here for me. Anything else you want to make sure you add before we give our rating?
Yeah, I'll briefly discuss this one scene that I think perfectly encapsulates that everything Alex Garland is saying about war as a filmmaker, and it's a scene where our protagonists, they're caught in this shootout between two snipers, and basically there's this idea. They have the conversation on the ground with one of the snipers, and the idea is, well, these people are trying to kill us. We have no idea why. So we're trying to kill them. We don't know why they're shooting or really why we're shooting, but we're just trying to survive. And I think when it comes down to it, maybe if people could actually learn to have conversations, atrocities like this could be avoided. And I think that's basically Alex Garland's plea to the audience and to the world at large in this film. And yeah, Civil War, I have not stopped thinking about it since credits rolled. I think I would describe it as just an unrelenting assault on the senses. And for me, it is practically a perfect film. And I'm going to give it a really strong A+, a rare A+ on Meet Me in the Movies.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. When that film ended, there was just this wow that just smothered me. And I just kept, shaking my head going, what did I just witness? And I witnessed art, cinematic art in the best way that I could. And I did not prepare myself for what I witnessed. And I'm so happy that I got a chance to experience it like I did. I cannot recommend this enough. It is a violent film, but it is war violence. It is true to what you would see, the atrocities, all of those things we mentioned. But man, talk about the power of this film. I cannot recommend it enough. And I think during awards season, it's going to be on it. I know we've got a long way to go before we get to the fall, Thomas, but right now this is at the top of my list of films that I will be coming back to at the end of the year. A+ rating for both of us for the film Civil War. You can find that in theaters now. And it does come to you from A24. We're going to take a quick intermission. We're going to come back, and we've got a lot to try to talk about in a short amount of time. So please go get your popcorn, get your Slurpees or your Ices, and come back. We'll see you shortly.
Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch a flick?
Hi, I'm Steve Putnam, and I'd like to invite you to join me for the next Talk of the Town. Each week I get to meet with some of the most interesting people in Cleveland County, and each show is packed with information you need to know to stay connected to our community. From promoting upcoming events to discussing local subjects that impact you, Talk of the Town has a little something for everyone. Plus, we're on every day, so it's easy to catch up with us. That's Talk of the Town, every day, every week, right here on C19 TV, Cleveland County's channel.
Hi, I'm Shara Miller, the host of Artworks. Each month we bring to you wonderful, talented artists from here in Cleveland County and the region. We have artists, we have potters, we have painters, we have musicians, we have actors. We just have wonderful artists that come to you and tell you about all that they're doing, their creativity, what inspires them. Join me here on Artworks each month on C19. You can also watch us online at c19.tv.
Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch
Hello, welcome back to Meet Me in the Movies. Noel T. Manning II here, along with Thomas Manning. We are talking cinema right here on C19 TV. We appreciate you spending time with us. Thomas, before the break, if anybody missed it, we did give an A+, a collective A+, to the film Civil War from A24, and we're switching gears slightly. I talked about kind of the violence that we saw in Civil War, and it was a war violence. It really made sense to what was happening. Well, this next film we're going to talk about, it's got a little bit of violence. It's got so much violence that your mom probably could not sit through it because she does not handle violence well. I would say violence to the extreme in the film called Monkey Man.
Yeah, and you're probably going to hear a lot of comparisons to John Wick with this film. And I will say there is even a John Wick reference in this film. Apparently, John Wick exists within this world. But I think our protagonist in this film, played by Dev Patel, he's not comparable to John Wick in a lot of ways because he's not a true professional like John Wick. He's figuring out stuff as he goes along. And I think that was refreshing to see an action film like this built around a character like that. And we see this evolution over the course of this film in his fighting style. Earlier in the movie, in the action set pieces, he's very inefficient with his energy and his movement. He's basically using his entire body with every action. And that does give him some power in those moments, but it also exhausts him and it's not sustainable. But it is so entertaining to watch someone just, clawing and fighting and scraping like that with every ounce of his energy. And I think Dev Patel embodied that in a really, really fantastic way.
Yeah, Dev starred in this. He directed it. He also was a co-writer on the screenplay for this. And some things that really stood out to me about this that I loved. I loved him. And you and I talked about this on the way home. It doesn't matter how much blood he's got on the face. He's just a nice looking guy. He's just pretty. He's just pretty no matter what's going on with him. So we're okay within who we are to be able to say that. It was pretty incredible. But the editing in this and the way the story was told, Thomas, I really loved because you're able to see through his character change, his character arc, his fighting styles change. And there's just kind of this raw element that's going on, and you're seeing that within the shots that are chosen. So the cinematography, you're seeing that within the editing. You're also seeing that within the way he's handling himself as an action star. But as he progresses and as the film progresses and he gets more comfortable with who he is and becomes more focused with what his mission is, the style of filmmaking changes. You see that with everything. And I thought that was a beautiful storytelling method to be able to do that. And that had to have been intentional for them to do it that way.
Yeah, 1000%. Once you get to the third act of this film, there's been a time jump, some rocky training montages, and the Monkey Man, he has refined his fighting technique. He uses his movement a lot more wisely and confidently. He basically knows where to hit and where to punch people. He understands their weak spots, and he adapts to his opponent depending on the size and then their fighting style as well. But also don't think for a minute that just because he's using his energy a little bit better means he's afraid to improvise and get a little dirty if he needs to, because he will do whatever it takes. He still has those roots of just being just a raw fighter. And I'll say he does things with his teeth in this film that will probably make Mike Tyson squirm. So
Absolutely. Well, just a couple things I want to mention, and we don't have a lot of time, Thomas, but it's a film. It's a revenge picture, but it's also a film that speaks to politics and faith, and kind of how sometimes those things get merged together and they mutilate each other. And I thought that was interesting, an interesting take, the way that was told. And we're also, seeing this character take on the name of the Monkey Man, even though we never really know his name. He's the kid, even though he gives himself the name Bobby because he sees Bobby's bleach, this little, product placement there. But the Monkey Man comes from this kind of folk tale and this children's story that's been told to him as a kid, and everybody knows about the Monkey Man, and he embodies that, and so that's where the title comes from. Uber violent. It's not going to be for everybody. If you're someone who likes the John Wick kind of violence, that is there. There's some amazing scenes, but there's also a lot of drama, and I think there's some interesting story that goes here. Pacing's a lot different than I think you see in a John Wick film as well, but I think that is the audience that this is probably kind of tailor-made for. Any final thoughts or comments you want to make sure you share before you give a rating?
Oh yeah, just major props to Dev Patel for continuing to fight the good fight and make this film. It was almost entirely scrapped due to the pandemic. They had to pivot last minute and shoot the film on an island in Indonesia rather than on location in India as originally planned. Dev Patel broke his hand filming the first action scene. Then there was some distribution drama because Netflix originally purchased it, but then they had some concerns with the political commentary and how that would land with audiences. So then Netflix looked into selling and they almost canceled the release entirely. And then Jordan Peele and Monkey Paw Productions came in, and then they convinced Universal to buy it. And now here it is on a production budget of $10 million. It's already made that back. And after 5-6 years of this drama, Dev Patel's film is out there in the world, and I think that's a true underdog story. This film itself, the story within, is an underdog story. So I'm just glad that we got to see it as it was meant to be seen.
Yeah, and we're going to be seeing more from Dev Patel as a director. We knew we were going to see more from him from an acting standpoint, but he's proven he can direct a film for sure. So Thomas, what's your rating for Monkey Man?
I'll give a solid B to Monkey Man, a really strong directorial debut from Dev Patel.
Yep, I'm right there with you. Another solid B for Monkey Man as well. And Thomas, we don't have time to go deep into it, but Kong X Godzilla: The New Empire. Do you want to give just your rating for that particular version of the Monarch MonsterVerse?
I'll give a B-, but a very fun B-, and you will not regret watching it if you like big monsters. That's all I have to say.
All right, and the film Scoop, I'd hope I'd be able to talk about that, but I want to give you a B rating for the film Scoop. You can find that on Netflix, and it is based on a true story. Gillian Anderson and Billy Piper star in this, along with Rufus Sewell. And if you get a chance to check out the YouTube channel that you'll see at the bottom of the screen there, you can actually see an interview that I had a chance to do with Gillian Anderson and Billy Piper. It was a heck of a lot of fun. We do appreciate you guys spending time with us. Thomas, glad that you could come back and join us again, and looking forward to talking more movies. And we are in the preseason for summer, man. I mean, I think every week we're going to be having some things that we want to talk about for sure, and we may have to double and triple team on some of those to make sure we can catch them all. But we appreciate you all watching and spending time with us right here on Amid Me at the Movies. Special thanks to Tim Foster for continuing to keep the power turned on, and I'm glad our satellites didn't go out over here in the Boiling Springs Satellite Center for Meet Me at the Movies. Until next time, for Thomas Manning and for the entire cast and crew right here, we say that's a wrap.
Many films to view until we meet again. Next time we see you, we'll gladly fill you in. We'll tell about the happy and the sad ones. We'll talk about the good ones and the bad ones. Many films to view till we meet again.